Say what?
Welcome to the Resistance. This is John Crump Live, and I'm your host, John Crump. How are you guys doing out there? I love you all very, very much. This is John Crump Live. Wolverines, MFers. Yes, I will not be hosting today. I'll be in the co-host seat because it's a Florida-esque show. And we can't have a Florida-esque show without the Florida man himself. Plus, we are live on the Firearms Radio Network not live, we're pre-recorded on the Firearms Radio Network. We're live on YouTube at John Crump Live, but Firearms Radio Network, all your podcasting needs everywhere. You can go to firearmsradio.net or find us on your favorite podcast at John Crump Podcast Provider at John Crump Live. And I'm joined by the Florida man himself, Liberty over Security. Flying. Hold on. I got to make this epic. Give me 1 second. Flying Rich. You're muted. You're muted.
Well, okay, now I'm unmuted.
Jackass.
Wow, that's kind of you.
And we're joined by the one, the only, the Latino heat himself, Rico Suave.
Thanks for having me on, guys. How you doing?
Already regretting it, right?
This is Luis Valdez, or also known as Luis Valdez, or as Rich calls him. You know, he was talking about you, right?
2 weekends ago, yeah.
2 weekends ago. And he's like, yeah. So we're gonna have Juan Valdez on the show. I'm like,
oh, I know what's wrong.
I'm like, the coffee
guy. You're not original, man. Come on.
He said Juan Valdez from GOA.
I'm like, that's not right. That's not right.
I've heard that my whole life, and also I actually know real Juan Valdez. So
the real Juan Valdez.
I know a real Juan Valdez, not the Juan Valdez.
No, I just thought it was funny that Rich.
In his world, he is Juan. He is the Juan Valdez. But that's
it was Paul and I. Paul from GOA, also from Legally Armed America. Paul Glasgow. We're both looking at each other like, Juan Valdez from GOA? Juan Valdez from GOA? I thought he was still picking coffee. And then I was like, you mean Lewis? And Rich was like, yeah, Lewis. He's like, who's Juan Valdez? He's like, the coffee guy.
At least it's not Exxon Valdez.
Yeah. All right. So, like I said, I'm going to sit back in here, and you guys are from Florida, so I know a little bit about Florida. Know a little something. Oh, by the way, Lewis wrote an excellent article on MLN.com. You can go to MLN.com and read his article about the whole entire damn thing. But I know Rich has a little bit of problem with the new law. And I know you have a little bit of a problem with the new law. And I know it's permitless carry and it's not constitutional carry. So I'm going to let you guys take it over, and I'm just going to sit back, enjoy, and speak up every once in a while. I will be Jamie as to Rich as Jamie is to Joe Rogan.
Okay. I didn't know there was anybody else on Joe Rogan.
He only
So-
says like 2 or 3 words a podcast.
So I'm both happy and sad
Oh,
with
by the
this
way,
announcement.
do you have a large deck?
Oh gosh, the deck jokes will never cease. Of course, the deck jokes originated with DLD After Dark. I don't know if you know our friend Dark, but
Doc Mavis.
yeah, Dark used to have a large deck. Now he's got a small wooden deck.
Why does Michael go by Dark anyway? Rich.
Oh gosh,
Why does Mike go by Dark anyway?
I don't know. So
All right, down to
looks
brass
like I
tacks.
hear my kids calling. My kids are calling. So I am both happy and sad with this announcement, or Ron DeSantis signing this law. Happy, yes, because it's a step in the right direction. Sad because we have a Republican supermajority in both houses in Florida's government and a Republican governor. And if we can't get full-blown constitutional carry now, when can we get it?
You know, you brought up a great point. The fact that this isn't a constitutional carry bill, and we've said that from the get-go here at GLA. We've called this what it honestly is, permitless concealed only carry, which is a step in the right direction, but it's not the large leap we were promised. This is a small step. And for folks both in and outside of Florida that don't know, constitutional carry is very simple. The ability to carry a firearm open or concealed without a permit. Florida is the only Republican majority state in the country that bans open carry. In fact, Florida is only one of 4 states that ban open carry. It's Florida, New York, Illinois, and California. You know, you wouldn't figure that Florida would be part of that group with New York, California, and Illinois, but we are when it comes to carrying a firearm in terms of open carry. And the issue is that the governor.
So wait, you're telling me in Hawaii you can open carry?
Yes.
Whoa. Wow. Okay, mind blown.
Yeah, Hawaii you could open carry because of a judicial ruling. But not in Florida. But the issue with the governor comes down to this. He only has so much political capital to spend. And the governor doesn't create legislation. He could propose it. He could push it. He could use his office as a bully pulpit for it. But it's the legislature that drafts it, pushes it, and passes it. And Kathleen Passidomo, the Senate president, she simply stated she's vehemently against it. She is not pro-gun. She never has been pro-gun. Mind you, this is a Republican. This is the Republican Senate president. In 2019, she was invited as the keynote speaker for a Democrat organization in Southwest Florida down in Naples. And gun control was one of the topics of conversation. She basically said if it wasn't for those dirty gun owners in the panhandle, we would have had an assault weapons ban after Parkland. And again, this is a Republican saying this.
Now that Parkland law that came out, it was like 30, 60, or 90 days right after the shooting.
It was literally 2 weeks after the Parkland shooting. The Parkland shooting
and it got passed.
It got passed in 15 days. The Parkland shooting happened February 14th, 2018. They had that bill done by the beginning of March. It was literally 15 days from it being introduced to being passed. And it has
so 30 days.
Basically, less than 30 days. Because remember, Parkland happened halfway through February.
Yeah. So, and if I recall correctly, it was like 140 something pages, that bill.
Yep.
So let's like show the sausage making. Basically, nobody in the Florida government wrote that bill. Somebody handed it to them and said, "Hey, throw your names on this."
Correct.
Because nobody writes 140 pages of law. You know, some Bloomberg organization does that and then hands it out and says, "Hey, I got this for you."
They had that bill sitting in a drawer somewhere ready to be introduced just for such an event. But
honestly, like both sides do that though.
yes.
No, I just want to be transparent. That's how the sausage is made.
That is very much how the sausage is made.
And I'm going to throw a caveat in there. The caveat is, for the most part, on the Republican side, we're not taking away people's rights.
Well, you're talking about Republicans outside of Florida. This is Florida Republicans. They're a creature unto themselves. Remember,
you mean the supermajority of rhinos?
Yes, because it was Republicans in 2018 that passed gun control.
Yes.
And it was Republicans since then that killed pro-gun legislation. And it was Republicans last year that blocked a true constitutional carry bill from advancing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Republicans this year that advanced this half-written piece of legislation. The problem with this bill is this bill isn't constitutional carry. It's not what we were promised. The governor was basically told by the Senate president, this is the best you're going to get, take it or leave it. Mm. And the problem with that is that, the governor cannot create law. He could put, he could lobby for it. He could use his office as a bully pulpit for it. But let's be honest here. You had a Senate president that is term limited, that is 110% establishment rhino, that is anti-gun, and that has nothing to lose. She could block everything DeSantis wants and lose absolutely nothing. Her only issue was she wanted to pass an affordable housing bill. And that was the quid pro quo. It was basically, we're going to pass a major Democrat policy, and I'm going to hold all of your legislative issues hostage.
Unbelievable.
And, going outside of the Second Amendment for a second, for a moment here, what were the other things the governor wanted to push? He wanted to push election integrity, education reform, the Second Amendment, of course. He wanted to push homeowners insurance, all of these issues. Well, in her case, she could literally just deny any of those bills from happening in the Senate, block them from advancing in the Senate, and all those bills would be dead. And I've heard this from multiple lawmakers throughout this legislative session, that she's the reason why we don't have a real constitutional carry bill. Because she's against open carry. She was against the idea of even advancing this, but the governor basically, the only trump card the governor has is, hey, I could veto your bill. So that was the quid pro quo. That was the deal made with the devil, that DeSantis had to basically go, all right, fine. You're going to hold me politically over a barrel on this. I want to do the best that I can for the people that I made promises to. Let's make a deal. And that is how politics is. That is how the sausage is made. So is the governor anti-gun in this case? No. It's the legislature. You have the legislature basically going against the governor. And the worst part is you have a Republican supermajority. And the issue with it is that a good chunk of them are pro-gun, but they are honestly terrified of the legislative leadership. They're afraid of the House Speaker and the Senate President killing their bills, removing them from committee, and sending them to the basement.
Unbelievable.
And with lawmakers, some are single issue lawmakers. They'll just push a certain issue. But other lawmakers, and the majority of them, they cover multiple issues. So, it's going to be funding for their district, it's going to be jobs, tax incentives, school resources, all of that stuff. And they were basically told, if you introduce an open carry amendment to the bill, we will squash all of your projects. We will punish you for this.
Wow.
And that's why we don't have what we have.
So you're saying the Senate president, and who was the lady that wanted
The Senate president is Kathleen Passidomo. She's the one that wanted the affordable housing bill. That's her pet project.
And what is her district? Where is she from? Is she like Miami or
Naples area?
Naples? All right. Wow. I'm just startled at this. I mean, they call us the gunshine state, and we have Republican supermajority in both houses. Basically, anything a Republican wants can be done. It's just like, you know, my Congress critter is Brian Mast, and we delivered, you know, a supermajority to the Republicans in Florida, and they just go like, yeah, thanks, enjoy your day. It's not like, oh yeah, we're going to do stuff, which is what drives me crazy, is because when the Democrats win, it's full socialism. They don't be like, oh, well, you know, maybe we'll have to make a deal or we won't go full blown. No, they go full communism. There's nothing stopping them.
The problem with Florida Republican lawmakers is a good chunk of them are 1990s Democrats. They ran under an R label because they want to win. That's it. That's all it is. And the insulting thing is, the Republican Party of Florida, the state party, we got them last year to pass a resolution supporting full constitutional carry. The governor supports full constitutional carry. And you have a bunch of rhinos, a bunch of 1990s blue dog Democrats that are masquerading themselves as Republicans, controlling the legislature. I mean, their entire political mindset and strategy is, what are you going to do? Vote Democrat? And they're honest. We did. You had the House bill sponsor, Representative Chuck Brannon, literally tell a Second Amendment activist that, you know what? Maybe I'll just pull the bill. How about that? You can vote for a Democrat.
Hold on. Live Life is a Patriot member of GOA, which means that he pays like $25 a month to GOA, which is better than a Life member, because you're giving over and over again, and your money is helping fund the fights that we are in, and we're in a lot of damn fights. We're in a lot of fights that are willing. I'm going to let you guys in on a little bit of how the sausage is made. I think Lewis is in a chat where we're crafting something really special.
I cannot confirm nor deny, but
I'm not saying that because he probably has no idea what I'm even talking about, because we have a lot of chats going on. But we're always working on things behind the stage, and I just want everyone to know that we do stuff that you guys will never, ever, ever see. But it's to forward the call for the Second Amendment. And that is one of the reasons why I'm so proud of being a member of GOA, a Life member of GOA, and also working with GOA hand in hand, day in day. Because some of the stuff that we do, you guys will never see, but it makes a world of difference. And there's so many people behind the scenes that work so hard to get stuff done. Eden, for example, works very, very hard. Rob and Steven work very, very hard.
There's a lot of work behind the scenes that's done by a lot of people.
Like Ben,
Aiden, Rob, Steven, I mean, Megan. There's a lot of people that work behind the scenes. And even here in Florida, our deputy director, Jed, he does a lot of work behind the scenes. And these people deserve the attention. They deserve the kudos, because honestly, you know, in my case, I'm just a public face. I'm the attack dog on this, but in every organization, you can't move forward without the support. So there's a lot that happens behind the scenes.
I'm the Sicario.
So I guess the question is, is there any getting rid of these rhinos or blue dog Democrats masquerading as rhinos?
There is, and that comes down to the voter. The voter needs to be involved. They need to stop being apathetic. I know a lot of people that they're honest, they're patriotic, they're proud gun owners, and they reliably vote Republican, and that's all they do. You know,
so is there a Florida GOA hit list?
That's the problem. It's a much shorter list of good guys.
It's a non-hit list.
Yeah, it's not a hit list, first off, but there's a political.
No, I said it's a non-hit list.
Yeah,
There's so many people.
So there's a group you can count on one hand that are good people, is what you're saying.
There's a good, solid core of people in the legislature, but the problem is it's its leadership, and this comes into how Florida.
You mean
is.
Simpson?
Well, Simpson's no longer in the legislature, but yes, he's one of them.
No, but I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah. Wilton Simpson, for example.
He claimed to be pro-gun, and he had a lot of pro-gun protectors, I should say.
Yes.
He wrote the Parkland bill.
But
we know he didn't write it.
But he introduced it and he claimed it as his own. The problem in Florida is, and I'll give you a great example with Kathleen Passidomo, the current Senate president. She was elected by her fellow Republicans to be the Senate president. And here's the thing. The next Senate president and House Speaker, they're already chosen, as are the next one. So from 2024 to 2026, there's going to be new leadership. They're already chosen. And from 2026 to 2028, they're already chosen. That's the problem. You have the swamp, you have the establishment literally crafting and molding their replacements right now. And, everyone talks about term limits. Oh, term limits is great. You get all these people pushed up. Term limits work sometimes, but sometimes they don't. And in Florida's case, they don't, because all it is you just keep building the cadre. So
they're just passing the baton.
That's all it is. If someone's going to run for office, for someone that's term limited, that person that's running for office 9 out of 10 times, they've already been vetted, they've been selected, they've been trained, they've been schooled, they've been molded. It's already like, okay, if Rich, in my case, if let's say I was a senator that was term limited, I would have approached you a year ago and been like, hey, I want you to replace me. You're going to inherit my campaign staff. I'm going to endorse you. You're going to get campaign funding, all of that. And basically all it is I'm handing you the baton saying, all right, keep it going. And that's a big problem we have in the legislature. And the other problem we have in the legislature is that 80% of the power is held by the legislative leadership. The House Speaker and the Senate President basically do what they want as dictators.
So there's no way to hold the president responsible or to shape their opinion.
The only way you could do it is if they were running for higher office. And in her case, it looks like she's not. That she wants to retire from this, have her high note, and be like, hey, I was the Senate president. Cool. And that's a problem. That's the issue with term limits. There is no threat that she will lose. There's no threat that she will lose power. She'll lose seniority. She'll lose status. She'll lose income. None of that.
So she's a lame duck.
There's
no influence.
We're still going to push the issue, and we're going to fight because, on the other side of this is you have the governor. The governor is truly pro Second Amendment from what we've heard and what we've discussed with the governor, and from the actions we've seen. But the problem is that the governor is fighting an establishment. On the federal level, they always talk about, the establishment and the swamp and in Congress. Guess what? It's the same thing on the state level. And the problem in Florida is, since it's a Republican supermajority, they have absolutely nothing to lose. And they learned that in Parkland because they passed gun control and not a single Republican lost election. In fact, Republicans gained higher office and they gained more seats.
Ouch.
And again, you had the bill sponsor this in the House literally tell gun rights activists, you know what? I don't write the bill. I don't even know what constitutional carry is. The drafting committee writes the bill. They give it to me. I'm just the guy that's chosen to push it.
Wow.
And on the Senate side, it's not that much better. Senator Jay Collins, who introduced the Senate version of the bill, during multiple times in committee, he was debating Democrats. And the Democrats asked him very simple questions like, how will this bill change carrying a firearm in your vehicle? And Rich, you know the law. If you have a permit, you could have it on you. And if not, it has to be securely encased. And securely encased is a very simple definition. And the glove box closed, and the center console closed, and a shoe box with the lid on it, and a zippered case. All of that matches the definition. Senator Collins, he literally goes, oh, well, like how it is right now, you have to keep it in a safe in your vehicle. And we all looked at him like, what?
Oh.
Like, that's not state law. Another question that was asked was about gun-free zones. One of the Democrats said, well, you're talking about this being an absolute right and it's an inalienable right. Well, what about gun-free zones? And he says, well, this doesn't touch gun-free zones. And she's like, oh, so, and the Democrat was like, oh, so the gun-free zones in the Capitol, the Capitol is a gun-free zone. So that stays. And he's like, yep, the Capitol will stay as a gun-free zone. Mind you, we're all just there looking at each other. It was one of those like, did he just say that? And when I stood up to speak in one of those committees, I corrected him. I said, to the esteemed Senator Collins, and to answer the other esteemed member's question here, no, the Florida Capitol is not a gun-free zone. In fact, you can carry in the state capitol and even in the governor's office. The only place you can't carry is any chamber committee when there is a legislative session or meeting or quorum happening. And it just shows that the people that are pushing these bills, they don't even know what's in it. On the final period of debate in the House and in the Senate, when the bill was passed through all the committees, on the House side, Representative Askamane out of Orlando, she introduced an amendment to repeal the gun-free zone in the state capitol during committee meetings.
Oh, shoot.
Amendment. It was a clean amendment. Literally, it's just a strike through. It's 790.06 subsection 12. That's what lists all the gun-free zones. And it was literally just a line through that little subsection. And she introduced it, and her argument and the Democrats' arguments in the House was basically, okay, Republicans, you guys claim guns make us safe. Put your money where your mouth is. Let the people carry here, right now, in the galleries, in the chambers. Let them carry. And the Republicans in the House shot it down. And in the Senate side, Senator Jason Pizzo out of Broward County introduced the very same amendment. And he had the very same argument, but he even took it a step further. He said, look, your own constituency who supports this cannot exercise their Second Amendment rights here in this very chamber sitting in the gallery. They cannot be here and do that. Would you support this amendment? And they said no. And then he says, what about open carry? Why isn't open carry in this? And Senator Collins' response is, we determined that this bill is going to be narrowly focused on permitless concealed carry only and nothing more. And Pizzo just does one of these of like, who's we? I'm a state senator. I wasn't brought in on this discussion. So explain to me, who is we? And Collins is literally there going, looking for assistance, basically looking at Pasadomo and looking at his fellow Republicans like, come on, guys, throw me a lifeline, to where Collins finally says, by we, I mean I. I determined that this bill is going to be narrowly focused on permitless concealed carry only.
Wow.
So I don't in any way respect Pizzo or Escamane as lawmakers. They're completely against the Second Amendment as Democrats, but I have to respect them in calling out the hypocrisy. And yes, they did it for their own political gain, because all they want to do is sow division within Republicans by placing gun owners against the Republican establishment. Well, you know what? Here's the honest truth. Republicans have done that themselves. All Pizzo and Escamane did was throw fuel on the fire. And in Pizzo's case, I will say this, the man is a great debater and orator, because he was a professional lawyer. He was a homicide, he was a statewide prosecutor covering homicide cases. The guy is sharp as, he's sharp as can be when it comes to debate and arguing. And he did a very good job in showing the hypocrisy of the Republican establishment on the Senate side of how they refuse to take the great leap forward in advancing and restoring our Second Amendment rights here in Florida. And to wrap it all up, this is what the governor is fighting against. This is what gun owners have been fighting against for over a decade here in Florida. But the governor especially, you know, he needs their support to pass legislation. It's the honest truth. Can the governor go scorched earth? Yes. Yes, he can. But if he does that, does anything move forward? No. And this is where, you know, politics is like sausage. You don't want to see how it's made. But
Right.
we got this small win because the governor was willing to say, all right, fine. You guys got me over a barrel. We still need to do this. I made this promise to the voters. I made this promise to Floridians. By God, I'm going to try to give them something. And the governor was asked last week in Georgia during his book signing tour if he would call a special session to add open carry. And the governor plainly said, I would do it if there's enough votes in the legislature.
So that's enough.
At the present moment, I think it's a yes in the House. I think it's a no in the Senate. But this is where it's getting interesting. Because this bill passed, great. And we're going to go over the intricacies of this bill on what you can and can't do with the permitless carry. But there's another bill in play. It's to repeal the under 21 purchase ban for long guns in Florida. There's no Senate companion bill. And Republicans constantly say that they will not move a bill forward in committee, let alone to the floor, if it doesn't have a companion bill in the other chamber. Well, this bill has gone through all the committees and it's now scheduled for the floor in the House. So I think there's enough drive in the House to basically tell the Senate, you know what, we're going to stick up for our principles. Wow. So I think if we put enough pressure on lawmakers and say, we want a real Second Amendment bill, we want a real constitutional carry bill passed, I think we can get it done either between now and next session, or next session, especially if we start putting pressure on the legislative leadership, the current members of the legislature, but more importantly, the sheriffs. Because Senate President Kathleen Pasademo said, I'm against open carry because the sheriffs are against open carry. She's using them as her political shield.
We have open carry in Virginia, and our streets don't have blood in them.
46 states have open carry. So, I mean, you know.
Wow.
But that's the issue.
That's the... I hear guys, I don't want to name the gun shop, but I've talked to old timers at gun shops in Palm Beach County, and they're like, well, I'm totally against open carry because Fuds.
The name Elmer.
It's like, really, dude? Really?
On a glue company?
It's unbelievable to me that there are people that are just outright against it. And look at all of the states. And that's what I love about the United States is we have 50 experiments in democracy. We can look at that. That's why I'm all for Colorado going legal on marijuana. Let them do it. Let them do it. See what happens. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. And we have examples of Texas where they're crying, twice. What was it? They did, I think it was open carry, then constitutional carry. And both times they did like, oh, the streets will run red with blood. And nothing. Not a darn thing happened or changed.
In my experience, some of the greatest resistance I've gotten for open carry and constitutional carry and repealing the gun-free zones and all of that here in Florida is Republicans. And I've gone to Republican quarterly meetings. I've gone to different Republican executive committees, the county level RECs, the county level parties. And I hear Republicans left and right tell me, oh, we need permits because permits stop criminals. Permits keep us safe. And I'm just looking at them like, hold on a sec. Let me break this down. So you're saying criminals who break the law by literally murdering, raping, and stealing are going to follow the law to get a little piece of plastic to carry in their wallet that says they can carry a gun, and they will respect gun-free zones. Oh, okay, sure, yeah. And the most shocking thing is up in the Panhandle. I had a retired county judge openly tell the entire room, "Oh, I carry a firearm." And I'm like, "Oh, awesome." And he goes, "I do it without a permit." I'm like, "So you currently violate state law?" He goes, "Yep." And I go, "So you're in favor of constitutional carry?" "Nope." And I was like,
Wow.
huh? Like, one of these, I was like, head scratching. What do you mean you so you openly break the law, but you're against it? Why? He goes,
Judge.
"Well, back," and this is where he goes. "Back in 1866, right after the Civil War, the town marshal got lynched by a bunch of freed blacks, and we need gun control to keep those people from being armed." And I'm like,
So basically, you're saying that he's a racist.
pretty much. So I was like, so let me get this straight. You are in favor of gun control to disarm your fellow citizens because of the color of their skin.
I would be like, so basically, you're a bigot.
Yeah.
I'm a little tongue-tied on this, but for some reason, I have zero fear of being lynched by freed blacks.
None whatsoever. I mean, I've heard that same argument made across the state by Republicans. And I had a guy in one of the Republican quarterly meetings. This one was in Orlando about a year or so back.
Would any of these guys be willing to come on my podcast? I can make sure they don't have a political career or any type of career.
These aren't lawmakers. These are Republican Party members. These are people that
I can make sure they can get kicked out.
Right. So I have one additional editorial comment about that judge. I knew a guy that was a car thief, and believe it or not, do you know what he was afraid of? Getting his car stolen.
Yeah.
So why this judge?
Maybe YouTubers should be afraid of that. Should be afraid of people with guns.
I
mean,
for everyone in the Northern Virginia area, they all know what I'm talking about. A YouTuber tried to pull a prank on a guy in the mall and got shot.
Well, this was a story. You broke this. Was it Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah, it was a tragedy. He lived.
What a shame. Darn. But I had another guy in Orlando literally tell me, we can't have open carry because I don't want my wife going to the Walmart and being scared by seeing someone. And I literally asked him, like, "Oh, so you mean a person of color? You mean a minority, like black or Hispanic?" And he goes, "Well, that's not what I mean." I'm like, "So describe, who is this someone? Why would your wife be afraid of someone openly carrying a firearm?"
Well, they're kind of white, but they're a little bit darker than white. They're like a brownish color.
Yep. And
I hate bigots.
It's that is honestly the gun control in Florida is rooted in racism.
Gun control and everywhere is rooted in racism, just not in Florida.
I know, but look,
all gun laws are racist. All gun laws are racist. Hey, Rich, you know what gun laws are?
I grew up in New York, and not like New York City, but not far away. It's like there was some of everybody everywhere.
Yep.
And so everybody was a person and had the same rights.
New York is one of the most segregated places in the world.
But
you live in Long Island.
Upbringing.
You live in Long Island, right?
I mean, I grew up in Long Island.
Neighborhoods, the Italian neighborhoods, the Hispanic neighborhoods, the Puerto Ricans. They segregate right down to, hey, you're from.
We went to the same schools and all that bit, and everybody was the same. I mean, I would have never thought, and I don't know whatever it is. I live in Jupiter Farms. Now, I don't know anybody that isn't white in my neighborhood. I, I don't, and I'm not saying that because I moved here because of that. I'm just like, hey, this is a house I could afford.
Yeah.
But I'm just stunned that a lot of the Florida, the reason we don't have, full constitutional carry is because of racists.
The Florida Republican Party is made up of two types of people. Long established Southern Democrats that became Republicans because they saw the political tide shifting, and New York country club establishment types from New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them have the same thing in common. They don't like the idea of lower working class people, aka their hired help, being armed and being able to legally defend themselves. They don't like that.
Wow. That's completely alien to me. And don't get me wrong, I get it. I understand what you're saying, and because it seems like everybody in Palm Beach County is from New York.
The joke is that Palm Beach is the external borough of
the
New York
sixth
City.
borough. Yeah,
yeah,
the sixth borough of New York.
And Naples is the seventh borough.
Wow.
But it comes down to and I'm not saying all Florida Republicans are like this, of course not, because look, I work with a lot of them. I mean, the current party chairman, Christian Ziegler, honest, great guy. He reached out to me and he literally says, look, I want to turn the Republican Party around. I want to make it pro-gun. I want to do this. I want to get GOA involved. So in no way is this the entire, but there is a core infestation of rhinos in the Republican Party that hold this mindset. I mean, the guy that chaired the previous Second Amendment Committee, his name is George Gasparini. He's out of Citrus County. He's a retired Jersey cop, and his attitude last year was literally, Florida doesn't need open carry. Florida doesn't need constitutional carry. And he ended his argument with basically saying, you don't get your rights. You're not born with your rights. Your rights aren't enumerated in the Constitution. The government grants you your rights. And you know what stops criminals? It's not people with guns. It's hard judges that sentence people to jail. That was literally his attitude. And I was just looking at him like, typical Jersey cop, expected.
Wow.
But he's no longer chairing the committee. He's gone. So there is change afoot, and that change is happening because we have been bringing it to light.
Wow.
But that is the issue in Florida. That is what the governor is fighting against. And it's not an issue of
if there was a call to action, what would, I mean, is it primary all the rhinos? What do we do?
Primarying a couple of rhinos would be a great thing to do. The problem is that last election, 1/4 of the entire legislature ran unopposed.
Ooh.
Unopposed. That literally they entered their name in the race, they won.
Wow.
Because it costs money, it costs time, it costs resources. And looking at the legislature, you know how much a lawmaker makes a year?
Oh, I bet it's like 70 grand.
$29,000 a year.
Woo.
That's it. Woo. 29 grand. But you have people spending hundreds of thousands up to $1 million to run for these offices. And, it's not easy for the common person to run for this. You have to be politically connected. You have to be backed. You have to be vetted. And the problem is the swamp, the establishment controls all of that.
My foot got stuck in a swamp. She said, stop stepping on me. I'm just a politician.
But that's the issue in Florida. And that's what the governor is fighting against.
Her name was AOC.
And it's not even an issue of Yankee carpetbaggers moving down here or good old Southern boys being here. It's a political machine that supports itself by promoting these people and advancing these people. I mean, again, going back to the House bill sponsor, Chuck Brannon, he is your, typical good old boy from North Central Florida. He's 100% Southern, has that draw, but he is your stereotypical big fish in a small pond, corrupt county sheriff type guy. I mean, he's all proud of it. I was a former deputy sheriff and a U.S. Marshal and this and that. It's like, all right, great. That doesn't mean much. You are elected to serve your constituency, and your constituency wanted this, and you only gave them half of what they wanted. And on top of that, you ain't that big of a fish in a small pond, because guess what? This is a state of 22 million people. But he's backed by the establishment.
Wow. I'm still flabbergasted. I can't get over. You said it's Florida, New York, California, and Illinois are the only places there's no open carry.
You even have some U.S. territories that have open carry. They can't even vote. They can't even vote for president. They have no representation in Congress, but they could open carry a firearm.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So I'm just stunned.
So to get into the meat and potatoes of this bill, what does this bill do and what it does? What it does is, if you meet the criteria to be issued a concealed carry permit, you can carry without a permit. Mind you, it doesn't say if you can legally own a firearm. It says if you could legally receive a permit, which is a higher standard than simply legally owning a firearm, because Florida places some additional conditions on getting a permit versus just legally purchasing a gun on the federal level. On top of that, it doesn't repeal gun-free zones. It doesn't repeal the mandatory waiting period. So if you want to skip the 3 to 5 day waiting period in Florida, you still need a permit.
You have to have a permit. Yeah.
Yep. Still has that. In terms of reciprocity, you need a permit for reciprocity if you want to go to other states. You know, it's dependent on that. On the federal Gun-Free School Zone Act, if you don't have a permit, you can be in violation of federal law if you're within 1,000 feet of a school zone.
Oh, interesting.
But that's an issue with federal law. The state law can't fix that. But you do have that. Now, it's very hard to be tried on that. There has to be intent to show that interstate commerce and all that and whatnot. But the long and the short of this bill, in the grand scheme of things, while is a step in the right direction, a lot of people that previously haven't jumped through the hoops to get a permit are going to carry, which is a good thing. It doesn't elevate us to our neighboring states. Georgia and Alabama, full-blown constitutional carry. They have open carry and concealed carry without a permit. Not Florida.
So my daughter, who just turned 21, who's never done anything wrong, I could give her a gun and she could conceal carry it.
In theory, yes. In theory, yes. And the other thing is, Florida is now a mandatory ID state because of this bill.
So if anybody thinks you're carrying, like if a police officer thinks you're carrying, he could stop you and ask you to show ID.
Yes, because one of the provisions of this law, and they basically mirrored it from this permitting scheme, was if you have a permit and you don't carry your permit, it's a $25 fine. So you have to produce your permit or you get the fine. Well, now it's, if you're going to carry, you have to carry a form of ID, and if not, you get slapped with a fine. But basically, it's turning it into a mandatory ID act, to where you have to have, if you're going to carry, you have to have ID on you. Because if not, then there's now you have probable cause for the officer to dive in further and see what's there. And,
so MC is asking a good question. Florida,
other states carry permits recognized by Florida. So the one good thing of this law is that out-of-state visitors to Florida could carry without a permit, as long as they're legally able to. So if they meet the criteria in Florida, meaning you're not a convicted felon, you don't have a DUI offense, you haven't gotten X number of traffic tickets and all that stuff, You can legally own a firearm. You can legally carry a firearm. So I hope that answers that question. Since permits at this point for reciprocity, one is not needed to carry in Florida.
Okay. That's cool.
Yep. And I know some people are going, why is open carry important? And the reason why is right now under state statute 790.053.
Can I interrupt you? I want to answer why is open carry is important. And you're going to quote laws and a bunch of crap like that. And that's fine. And I'm going to
know where you're going to go with this.
That. But I just want to state, in my opinion, this is John Crump's opinion. Yeah, it kind of is GOA opinion too, but I'm pretty sure it's Lewis, and I'm pretty sure it's Rich's opinion. But why should you be allowed to open carry? Why is open carry important? And the answer is simple. It's your goddamn God-given right. And if anyone wants to impose on that right, they are known as tyrants. And as tyrants, they should be thrown out of office. You cannot tell me how I can speak. You cannot tell me what I can write. So you cannot tell me what I can carry and how I can carry, because the Second Amendment is not a second-class right, as Justice Thomas brilliantly said. The Second Amendment is not a second-class right. You cannot tell me how to carry. If I want to open carry, I should be able to strap my freaking machine gun on the side of my right hip and my RPG on my left hip, skip down the road with a dress on if I so choose, which I'm not going to choose, but I should be able to do that. And if I want to go farm pot in the middle of the woods while doing that, I should be able to do that. That might not be GOA's opinion, which I'm not going to do that either. But it's about rights. And the government thinks they are our keepers. They think that they have some intrinsic power to oversee our rights and to control our rights. They think they know what's better for us than we know what's better for us. And I'm telling them right now, I'm telling you, government officials out there, you have no right to tell me what to do. You have no right to tell me what rights I can exercise, how I can carry a firearm, what firearm I should carry and can carry, because that is not your right. You're not God. You're not the universe. You do not have that power over me. All right, Lewis, back off to you.
Golf clap. All right. So the legal reason why, and this is of course I agree with everything. It's our God-given right. It's an inalienable right. But the legal reason is because right now under state statute 790.053, it says that if you have an accidental exposure for a brief period of time, it's not a criminal offense. Well, here's the problem. There's no definition of what accidental is and what brief period of time is. It's up to the discretion of the officer and the prosecutor. And we've had instances here in Florida after that law was passed where good, honest people were jammed up by the system and charged with criminal violations. I mean, just last year, less than a year ago in terms of time span, but chronologically this happened last year. In Columbia County, you had a guy, a blind man, mind you. Well, I forget if he was walking to or from jury duty, but it was the early morning. He had his folding walking cane shoved in his back pocket.
This is ridiculous.
It was foggy. The light glinted off it, and two deputies saw the light, and their entire reason, their probable cause to stop him was because they thought he was openly carrying a firearm. And he basically told them, like, I don't have to tell you anything. I'm a free person. I'm following the law. I'm not breaking any law. Oh, well, we think you have a gun. And he's like, so are you tyrants? And they basically said, yeah, we're tyrants. We're going to find out. They charged him with disorderly conduct and arrested him for simply a blind guy walking down a sidewalk with a folding cane in his back pocket because they thought it was a gun. If we had open carry, it wouldn't be an issue. And I can tell you from personal experience, when I was a cop in South Florida in Miami-Dade County, I was off duty on my motorcycle. I was going home on the Palmetto Expressway. I was going to get off on 154th Street, Miami Lakes Drive. I was in the right lane for the exit. To the left of me, there was I was in the left lane getting ready to merge to the exit to the right side. And to the right of me, there was a marked Miami-Dade PD unit. So, I turn on my blinker. I'm waiting for the marked unit to pass me so I could get over. Well, as he passes me, what happens? My shirt's flapping in the breeze. Why? Because, hey, I'm riding a motorcycle. What happens? Guy saw my off-duty piece. He slams on the brakes, pulls in behind me, lights me up, and pulls me over off the exit ramp, and at gunpoint demands that I identify myself. And I did. And I show my law enforcement credentials. And he basically says, if it wasn't for you being a cop, I would have arrested you for open carry.
I would have told him, I demand that you identify yourself. I would be like, I'm the guy that's doing your mom.
Oh, shh.
No, seriously, I got a question about the FBI one time, a long time ago, about something. And it was about something that they were casting a wide net, and it's a long story, but they're casting a wide net, and they handed us all this paper, oh, these are the questions. Where were you on this date? I was like, you're doing your mom. And the FBI agent's like, what? I said I was doing your mom. Any other questions? Because I'm not answering them. And I left. Never back from them again.
Well, that's why we need open carry in Florida, is to stop vindictive, overzealous cops from doing this. And I say this as a former cop.
Wow.
We shouldn't have that happen. We shouldn't have law-abiding people be harassed. I mean, Sheriff Bob Gualtieri of Pinellas County said a couple of years back, if anyone open carries in my county, I'll have them proned out at gunpoint by my deputies. Mind you, Pinellas County is Tampa. You know what's in Tampa? Busch Gardens. You know how many people visit Busch Gardens that are lawful, law-abiding people that carry firearms? A lot of folks. Sure.
Yeah.
And literally, that is the mindset you have of some law enforcement officers.
That's crazy. It's a very backwards attitude. All right, I've got two questions for you. One thing I've seen in writing different than somebody said recently. Somebody said you can't carry into a bank in Florida.
Not under Florida law, no. Banks are not
right.
A specifically listed gun-free zone, no.
And as far as gun-free zones, the opposite is true about churches in Florida. I think DeSantis, was it last year, signed a bill that says, hey, you can carry in churches.
So with churches, there was a bit of a muddy situation. Churches aren't listed specifically as gun-free zones, and they never have been. What churches have been listed as gun-free zones, if they had any daycare service, or parochial school, or even if, let's say, a church leased their space from a school. Because, look, I've driven across from Florida, from Pensacola to Key West and everywhere in between. You have some church services that they'll rent the auditorium of the local high school for 2 hours to do their service. So what the law basically did was it listed those religious institutions that were automatic gun-free zones to basically saying, look, you have the right to determine yourself to be a gun-free zone. So if a church did, a daycare center Monday through Friday, and they're doing, mass Wednesday evening or Sunday morning, I'm Catholic, that's how it is. You have Wednesday and Sunday mass. Then now they're not automatically a gun-free zone because of that.
You have mass every day.
I'm a BWF Catholic, baptisms, weddings, funerals.
All right, my next question.
No more questions. We gotta go.
Wow.
Yeah, I gotta get all. I gotta go to consumption.
Hi, John. I can manage this last question.
All right, guys, that is it for today. I'll see you guys later. Rich will take over. And with that, I am out of here. And that ends the audio only portion of the podcast. So join Gun Owners of America at gunowners.org. Bye.
See you, John.
So, Lewis, one last thing. This is an enhanced trigger.
Yes.
Has that law, so the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas law that says you can't install an enhanced trigger into a firearm, and I understand the interpretation. Tell me if I'm wrong on any of this. My understanding is the interpretation is that if I bought a built lower and put that trigger, like remove the stock trigger and put a new trigger in, I'd be violating the law.
In theory, yes. The law is so vaguely written, it basically says any device that could increase the rate of fire of a firearm if it's not from the factory. And of course, it specifically mentions bump stocks by name, but then it covers other items like binary triggers and force reset triggers and all that because it's so vaguely written. But the danger of that is if I have a simple Glock 17 that comes from the factory with a 5.5-pound trigger connector, and I get a Glock factory 3.5-pound connector, and to install it, all it is literally I get one punch, push out the pin, lift up the trigger group, boom, done, and put it back. I have technically increased the rate of fire of that pistol because now it's a 3.5-pound trigger instead of a 5.5-pound trigger, and that's a felony. That's how dangerous it was. That's how dangerous it is. And that's how dangerous anti-gun Republicans are. Yeah. I mean, if you get a prosecutor that literally wants to do that, they could in court make that. They could pursue that. They could make that argument in court. Oh, well, the defendant here increased the rate of fire of his firearm. He put a Geisley single stage match trigger that has a 6-ounce, pressure pull, whatever the hell they want to do.
Right.
But
believe it or not, I am I'm abiding by the letter of the law, printing another lower for this to go in because it's going to go in a specific firearm I printed, but I'm going to just print another lower so I do not infringe.
Because you are manufacturing that lower as a private citizen, thus under the law, hey, it's factory. Yep.
That's another crazy thing, and along with Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, there's red flag laws. There's a whole bunch of other things, which I'll ask this last question, and is there any chance that whole Marjorie Stoneman Douglas law would ever be repealed?
I think there is a chance, but it won't happen until you have lawmakers that voted for it in office. And the law passed in 2018. So you have some lawmakers that are going to be in there till about 2026, maybe 2028. It's because no one is going to vote to repeal a law that they think is a good law. Because then they're basically telling their constituency, they're telling the media, they're telling everyone, I was wrong. And no politician wants to admit they were wrong.
Ed Koch did all the time, but that was Ed Koch. All right, Lewis, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. And we got to work harder in Florida here.
We are working. Look, we're making ground. We're making gains because 3 years ago, before GOA brought me on board as their state director, where were we? Nowhere. We had the Parkland bill and we had anti-gun Republicans saying, this is all you're going to get, be happy. We have raised such a stink that they had to bend knee and pass permitless concealed only carry. And from the moment this bill was announced to the moment this bill was passed, we have controlled the public narrative. I mean, we were there at the press conference when they announced the bill, and the first words out of their mouth is, oh, we're passing constitutional carry. And the first words out of our mouth was, no, you're not. This isn't constitutional carry. And every media journalist that was there immediately did one of these, huh? They turned around and looked at us like, what do you mean this isn't constitutional carry? And we explained it. We're like, there's no open carry in this. It doesn't lower the age to 18, yada, 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 yada. And they were like, oh my God, you're right. And at every committee meeting, we've hammered that issue. We've hammered, and our stance has been this: we support this bill. This is a step in the right direction, but you guys could do better. And to the point that lawmakers in committee said, you know, they're right. And by they, meaning us, GOA, this isn't constitutional carry. You had Representative Paula Stark. She's down here in Central Florida. She literally said in one of the House committee meetings, this isn't constitutional carry. We should have open carry. We should have 18-year-olds being able to legally purchase and carry firearms. We should repeal gun-free zones. But I'm only one representative out of 160 lawmakers, so I'm going to vote for the bill as is because I've been threatened that I can't do anything else. You had her. You had Representative Beltran make a passionate speech on the House floor for open carry. I can't remember his name right now, but you had a state senator also make a passionate speech about open carry. And in Beltran's case, the legislative leadership basically told him to sit down and shut up. So
wow, that's stiff.
We are taking ground, and we are making ground, and we are shaping policy because we even now have the governor on record supporting it. So Republicans come in next year as an election year. They're going to be between a rock and a hard place of saying, oh, you claim you're pro-gun? Why haven't you done this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the most important thing is that traditionally Florida's legislative sessions are 60 days and, you know, they're a year apart. Well, here's the thing. Traditionally, when it's not an election year, the session starts in March and ends in the first week of May. When it's an election year, session starts in January and ends in the first week of April. Next year's an election year. We don't have a year span between this session and the following. Committee meetings are going to be starting in October and November of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Session will be starting in January. That means committee meetings will start in literally 5 to 6 months from now. If we keep up the pressure between now and then and we make it an issue, Republican lawmakers are really going to be scared come election time because it's going to be a short window for them to try to erase the public's memory that they only did a half step. Half step. And that's very crucial to us because if we keep the pressure up, I really think next year we could make it an issue because the governor
that'd be exciting.
And again, the governor, we've spoken to the governor, and I truly believe Governor DeSantis is pro-gun, but he only has so much political capital he could spend because he's trying to fight Disney. He's trying to pass education reform, homeowners insurance reform, Second Amendment rights, election reform, all of this stuff. And it comes down to, can he put all of this focus on everything, or does he have to spread out his political capital and try to get something good passed for everything? And I understand that. If I was in his shoes, I get it. But personally, I'm a single issue voter. For me, it's gun rights. So that's what I'm going to push.
Amen.
So, again, thanks for having me on the show, brother.
Thank you, Lewis.
And I gotta swing down by your neck of the woods and play with some of your printed stuff. That'll be fun.
Oh yeah. Oh hey, there's Pew Party 2.0 going on May 6th. So we had Jay the Shooter on yesterday. So this is going to be at the Bunker, I believe. I don't have it up right now. So the Bunker, which is like in the Orlando area. So I was going to bring stuff with me.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, definitely. I'll swing by for that. I'll show up and be completely, all fuddish, shooting my revolvers and lever action. I'm on a revolver kick right now. I just picked up a Smith & Wesson Model 681, which is the most boring gun out there. It's a fixed sight, L-frame, 6-shot stainless steel 357 revolver. But I'm in a retro stage right now. I have enough Glocks and ARs and NFA stuff, and it's just kind of fun to go out and shoot 357. It's relaxing. It's less stressful right now, especially dealing with our legislature.
Yeah, I bet. All right, Lewis, thank you very much.
And it's cheaper, but thanks again, man.